going. Hit the live button. I think we'll be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter today. And let's see. And let's wait for those social
Spool up. Yep.
to log in. It always takes a few seconds for
Yeah.
the stream to kick in.
Yep.
And looking forward to chatting with fans. I love their everyone's responses.
Yep.
Chat and stuff like that. All right, looks like a couple people are here, and let me check that we're live on YouTube. Yeah, we're live on YouTube, and more things. All right, looks like we're live on Facebook as well. All right, let's get this going. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It is the round 4 results show for Middle Earth March Madness. This is our annual matchup for March Madness, which in the United States, it's a big college basketball. March is always college basketball month. In fact, I think the national championship for college basketball is this Monday.
Coming up.
So a lot of people, a lot of companies, organizations, groups put together their own little March Madness bracket of 64 teams. And we've done that every year with Middle Earth people and things and items and fights and costumes. And this year's theme is the Rings of Power. So we found 64 unique characters in the season 1 of Rings of Power, which is just, first off, it's just crazy that a brand new TV show would have that many characters.
We had to get a little creative.
Yeah, so it's been amazing. I'm joined here today by Mad Eye Gamgee himself, Jim Wirt, out of our East Coast operations. He helps put together Dragon Con's Tolkien track every year, don't you?
Well, I wish it was still the Tolkien track. It's high fantasy now, so we've expanded.
It's high fantasy. Tolkien can be the only game in town.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll bet they changed the name from Tolkien track to fantasy after the Hobbit movies came out, because the expectation from everybody was there would never be more Lord of the Rings.
They thought it was over. How wrong they were. Not only in movies and television shows, but books. I mean, literally, there was a new Tolkien book that came out or was pre-ordering yesterday. So it's just crazy.
That's amazing. Did you ever think that we would get more movies, let alone a TV series?
You know, it's such an enduring property that there was always the hope. At the same time, the Peter Jackson films were so iconic that even now it's hard to envision, who's going to take the run at redoing the actual Lord of the Rings story. So even now, the rumbles around Warner Brothers are that there are going to be other projects, other storylines, maybe a post Return of the King kind of a storyline. Who knows? But and so next year we're going to get a War of the Rohirrim in an animated form, and so it's going to be a Helm Hammerhand.
Who Helm's Deep is named after.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And so it's going to draw from the appendices. Not a whole lot of material, but there is a little bit of a story arc and some highlights, and then some supplemental characters, but some core characters, some that weren't named that are going to be named. So it's going to be a fun project, I think.
Man, it's amazing that we got the best of the best. Lord of the Rings was the most winning film of all time up until this year, with Everything Everywhere won more global awards.
Oh, global awards. Okay.
Global awards. But as far as record for Oscars, Return of the King still holds the thing, and that doesn't even count Fellowship and Two Towers Oscars that they won. So the fact that we got the best of the best, and now it's a clean slate. So kudos to Amazon for kind of rebooting everything and bringing in new expectations, bringing in a younger cast for Rings of Power. And I'm really excited what the next 5 to 10 years for Rings of Power. These actors are going to grow up in front of our faces. Young Elrond has a lot of living and loving to do to get to where we are in the Third Age.
And a little bit of loss as well. So yeah, yeah.
Well, let's dive
Yeah.
into the brackets here. Let me bring it up on screen.
All right.
There it is.
You got it up. So yeah, we're in the regional finals. We're going to get to the final four in today's announcement. So only 8 matchups, or actually only 4 matchups. Talk about 8 teams or eight individuals in Middle Earth. This was the bracket. You can find those on the social media filled out so far. But if you want it a little bit more colorfully, here were I call them our Ioneor or Elder 8, our Elite 8, two folks from each one of our regions. They broke down actually into north, south, east, and west. So we've got 2 elves in Galadriel and Elrond. We've got Nori and the Stranger, who were clearly the core load-bearing characters in the whole Harfoot storyline. From the south, the lowest seed to make it through into the final 8 was Arondir at a 4th seed, and he took out our number 1 seed during the last round in Adar, and he's up against Halbrand, or not your Sauron, I think is his official name, isn't it, Justin?
That's right. I think we've been discussing the last few times on this. Would Halbrand have been as successful if we just kept him as Halbrand, not Sauron?
All right. Well, I'm going to ask that question to you again when we get to his region.
Yeah. All right.
And then the final one in the west, the far west, the utter west, are our Numenorians. And no surprise there, our 1-2 matchup in Elendil and Miriel, who have had pretty easy victories so far in that particular region. So that's who we're up against. Elf on elf. We've lost our dwarves last round. We had lost all the monsters in the earlier round, so it's just the elves matchup now. And 2 pretty good ones, Galadriel versus Elrond.
Man, both of them are great. The performances are wonderful. I'm in love with both characters. But I got to say, I win with Galadriel because Morfydd Clark is a generational talent, and I'm so glad that she's chosen Rings of Power to be her launch pad. And Elrond was a second-tier casting originally, and had hired Will Poulter, but due to delays in production and whatnot, Will Poulter decided to jump to Marvel and be a big golden steer of a character. I forget the name of him. Bill or
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't been watching them.
But Robert Arameo stepped up from playing Ned Stark in Game of Thrones.
Yep, young Ned Stark.
Ironically, the guy that played young Ned Stark, which was Sean Bean's character, is now in. So we've got kind of son of Boromir in some weird multiverse. But who did you vote for, Jim?
I think I voted for Elrond in this one. I really enjoyed the work, and it really was spilling over into the buddy film, the buddy TV show that Elrond and Durin the Fourth had. So I thought that Robert Armero brought a lot of nuance and character, and I really enjoyed his reflections on his father, Erendil. So I just really enjoyed his portrayal. Not to take anything away from Morfydd Clark, because as you said last time, she's clearly, if not the lead character, one of the lead characters that the whole Rings of Power is really leaning on.
Yeah, that's curious. All right, well, let's see how the fans vote.
All right. So
We don't decide. The fans decide.
this started out close, but she was never in behind. Galadriel comes through with 55%, a lot closer than her previous matchups. And I've actually included Galadriel's path to the final four there on the left.
Everyone she is slain.
So this is, she beat some big opponents, starting with the Balrog. Obviously, the Librarian was not much of a matchup, but there were a lot of folks that thought that Balrog might have gone deeper into this particular region.
Yeah.
And then she took out Durin the Fourth, a real fan favorite, especially among our Dwarven and Moria fans. And then she has just now overcome the match with Elrond himself. So she was number 4 in the raw vote in total and came through with 55% of this one.
There you go.
So she is moving on to the final 4 as a number 1 seed. Here's our second matchup. This was probably like it was in the Sweet 16 round. This was probably the most heavily contested over the course of the day and yesterday. And then we had another really strong surge this afternoon. I don't know what the dynamic is, but in this whole region, there were probably almost 15 to 20% more votes cast in this region than in the other regions. Probably because of this head-to-head match.
And both have become fan favorites. Arondir has been the standout of the new characters introduced. And of course, Halbrand has a lot of fans with the Unhinged Fellowship. And who doesn't want to love Sauron, the title character of the Lord of the Rings? He literally is the Lord of the Rings.
Well, and obviously, in the Lord of the Rings, the end of the Third Age, the Jackson movies, Sauron is little more than either, a prologue, heavily armored character with a huge mace.
Yeah.
Or he's a giant flaming eyeball. Neither one of which gives you a lot of opportunity to explore motivations, background characters, and so on. So one of the things that Rings of Power is clearly doing is giving Halbrand / Sauron / Anatar / all kinds of other names backstory, and whether you like it or not, he's having these exchanges, especially with Galadriel, where he's displaying at least some sense of trying to pick a different path than his master Morgoth, but still being trapped in that basic desire for control and trying to recruit his lieutenants around him, including Galadriel, apparently, at least in the Amazon storyline. So we're getting a lot more out of that character.
Well, I don't like Halbrand personally. I voted for Arondir because Ismael Cruz Cordova is awesome, and it's a shame that he's not being brought back for season 2. But hopefully, we'll see him in season 3 and 4.
We'll see. I'm still skeptical. They still have weeks to go in their season 2 show.
Yes.
So maybe he'll come in. Who knows? At any rate, Halbrand, not just in Sauron, was leading this match for about 3/4 of the time. And then we saw the Arondir surge.
Hey, my guy. Look at that.
So at a number 4 seed, Arondir with ultimately a pretty sizable chunk of the vote, 57% of the vote, and number 1 in terms of the raw vote, came through and won the Southron, or the southern region of our Middle Earth March Madness. And you can see his path. Arondir had to get over by some really stiff competition, including Adar and now Halbrand Sauron, to get into the finals, but he did.
I hope this portends actual narrative of the show where Arondir is responsible for slaying a version of Sauron. As we know, Sauron comes in many forms.
Yeah, if you go to the One Ring site, we actually used some pictures where we had Arondir and Halbrand in the same shot. And for the most part, Arondir's stepped into the background and he's just respectful that, there's the king of the south before he knew Sauron is back. So who knows? It'll obviously be a different dynamic should these characters actually meet on the screen. So Arondir. Interestingly, the number 2 Raw vote recipient was Halbrand. But he lost to Arondir. All right. You still with me?
What's your name? Justin.
Yeah. Well, thanks for checking in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Justin, you still with me, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't freezing up again like I did last time.
No.
Okay.
Step back out.
So Arondir's going on.
Hey, look who's joined us. Longtime staffer Garfa Mayo. Garfa Mao?
Garfay Mao. It's Garfay Mao.
Man, I say your name wrong. I say your real name wrong. I'm just worse.
Well, Garfay is just basically an alliteration for Garfield the cat, and Mao is cat, as in meow, 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 meow.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
who did we just announced that Arondir beat Halbrand? Yeah. So yeah, you're on Team Arondir, correct?
Absolutely. I was totally out there going, all right, guys, the elves could really use your help now.
Well, you must have been the one who did it, Kathy, because
I remember it was really, really close. And so you're right.
Really close. It was like 20 votes close with Halbrand in the lead. But,
and then I was like, well, that's going to be Halbrand in Galadriel, which is not a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But I would much rather evil not have sway in our thing.
In our final four. Well,
yeah.
So far we're on a good track there.
All right. Who did I miss? Who else? So did you already
the only other region we announced was this one, where Galadriel made it through and beat Elrond.
Yeah, and that one was going to be a harder one to overcome.
Yep. So it's, right now, and this will be the first of our final four matchup, will be Galadriel versus Arondir now.
And we've seen both of them fight. See, Elrond hasn't done any fancy fighting yet, whereas Galadriel has done that whole thing with the ice troll and scaling an ice mountain and everything like that. And we've seen her fight style, and then we've seen his. So this is going to be a battle of the fancy fighting.
The interesting
elves.
Styles. There you go.
Yeah.
So we do have elves, a Southron or a woodland elf.
Yeah.
Sylvan elf, an elf that hasn't gone into the Utter West, has not seen the two trees, versus Galadriel, who has. Has all that Noldor history behind her.
Yes.
So that gets us through half of our final four matchup. That takes us to our east region, the Harfoots and Visitors, where we had kind of the two, probably the most expected finalists in this round.
Yeah, the two Wanderers. Yeah, the two Wanderers.
So we've got Nori Brandyfoot up against the Stranger, who we know is at least an Istar.
That's all we know about him for sure.
I've seen some folks that have claimed to have read confirmation that this is actually Gandalf, and others who are still not either convinced or happy with that kind of.
I hope they decide to make that known for sure.
Yeah.
Or at least give him what I've always wondered is why the Harfoots never gave him a name. I mean, so that you can call him something.
Right.
Just not just the big guy or the Stranger or the Meteor Man. It's like
the giant. Yeah.
I mean, if you watch any Hallmark romance movies where someone loses their memory, they always give the person a name so that they can actually call them something while they're having conversations. I mean, it's just sort of like.
What are you going to call him? Chuck? Or I don't know.
I don't know. What would I mean? The Brandyfoot. I mean, the Harfoots would probably call him something.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, Sadak has already dropped out of the race, and he would have been the guy to come up with a good name.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Well, and it's really funny seeing Marva and her sister like you being the ones that are like going to be reading the maps, except for like when Poppy comes up and says you're reading it upside down. And so it's like he clearly had a lot of knowledge and had learned stuff from those. And I'm just like, man, if we do see the Harfoots again, it's going to be because they all fell into, a marsh or something like that. And it's the only way we're going to see them again is they were led astray.
Well, I voted not Gandalf because, as I said before on previous shows, Eleanor is the most miscast actor in Tolkien's Legendarium for the basic reason of we have 5 sentences total that describe Harfoots written by J.R.R. Tolkien, and she doesn't look like any of those sentences. So that was my protest against that character.
Whereas I voted for her.
So Justin, you voted for the Stranger, and Kathy, you voted for Nori.
Yep, I did.
Any predictions on this? This was a closer matchup than it was.
Well, the scores always pop up afterwards. Yep. So unless me posting occasionally saying people keep voting, keep voting, keep voting, I know how it ends because the numbers come up.
Well, here's the numbers. The Stranger got through.
Yeah.
58% of the vote.
There you go.
And there again is his path. He got through the antlered, wandering, nomadic big people, and Malva, Meadowgrass, and Poppy, and now he has defeated his disciple, in a way, Nori, to move on to the final 4. So the Stranger is in. The Strange Istar is the third of our final 4 candidates.
And according to the showrunners, the magic he used against the 3 white witches did not kill them.
Yeah, that's that would be likely. Whenever you see a Nazgul, until Eowyn and Merry take him out in the Return of the King, they are apparently destroyed, but they're not really. It's a little harder to destroy those spirits.
And this is the question I have is in any of the Middle Earth books, whether it's the history or whatever, are there other magic users outside of some of the elves, the older elves, the Valar, and the 5 Astari? I mean, is there anyone else who actually worked? I mean, obviously, Witch King of Angmar. So clearly there is magic that others have access to.
I guess it would depend on who you're thinking or what you're calling magic. But obviously we had a shapeshifter who was a human, Aorn.
Well, and then the whole fire thing.
Yeah.
The fact that she could touch fire and it didn't bother her, and then she could blow it and it could go anywhere. I mean, there was definite magic being made by these people, particularly the lead.
So. Stranger is moving on.
Yeah, but he's met his match in the next round.
our last matchup, our Numenorian, our far west, our utter true west division. It's matching up our 1-2 seeds here as well in Elendil, the voice of chocolate, and Miriel, the queen who's trying to maneuver all the politics that are happening in Numenor at the moment.
Oh yeah, she's navigating a minefield.
Yep. Trying to take care of her father, who in the last episode has died in Tar Palantir.
Yep.
Kathy, last time Justin and I talked about how it was interesting that the writers decided to make Miriel blind. Not sure yet if that's temporary or permanent. But particularly given her father was farsighted, Tar Palantir.
And he mentioned, don't go. I see only darkness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it almost leads you to believe that she is going to be blinded permanently, possibly.
Could be.
Because of that statement.
Any predictions on this matchup?
I saw the numbers.
I don't know. I want Elendil because he's got so much more to do, and I think he's a more familiar character. I mean, we
Yep.
see Elendil in the prologue of Peter Jackson's movies, but I loved Muriel, and I'd be happy if either of them go. But my lean is my preference, my bias is toward Elendil.
Yeah, I was voting Elendil. I mean, I like Muriel, but I was voting Elendil. But then again, I'm a girl. I mean, when the cast was up on stage at Comic-Con and I was writing notes of everything they were all saying, and they introduced him, and all I could say was, my goodness, Elendil is a good-looking man. Or actually, Lloyd Owen is a good-looking man. So yeah, or very handsome. I think I called him very handsome. Are you frozen, Jim?
I think so. Jim's internet has been a little wonky, so
I know who wins. Oh, he's gonna have to come back in. Yeah, that one was a runway. Was going to be a runway. I mean, it was the point differential was very big.
What?
If you want me to announce it.
On the Elendil thing?
Yeah, it was a very big yes.
Timmy in the chat room says back to the last one, voted Eleanor.
Yeah.
Over the stranger.
Yeah,
so I think Eleanor has a lot of fans.
Kaylin Griffin. She also voted for Nori.
It's she's growing on people, and she's a great character, and she's well written, and I'm encouraged to see how a halfling will affect the goings on in the Second Age.
Particularly since they're not supposed to have any kind of influence whatsoever because they're not really supposed to be there.
Well.
Oh, okay. No, you're right. It's not that they weren't supposed to be there. It's that no one really knew about them because they hide so well.
Also, no one recorded their history. Tolkien admits that the Harfoots didn't write, so they didn't record their own history. Men were terrible history keepers. They only wrote about themselves. And elves were a little more open to recorded history, but didn't record everything because their lives were so long. So Tolkien acknowledges that Harfoots did exist in the Second Age. They probably had many things to do, but no one just recorded their history.
Yeah. And whereas I would really love to see Ents appear in the show, we can't have Nori encountering the Ents because the Ents would have remembered because we know that they have no recall whatsoever of the species of halflings. So
back and you want to do full screen on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me share my screen again. Sorry.
Yeah. I see. I
can spoil everyone and say who wins because I know.
No, don't tell me. I need to see.
I am going to say that Cecilia was saying that I'm Team Arondir and Sauron. And I'm like, unfortunately, they were competing against each other in this Elite 8 round.
All right.
Hopefully, Cecilia, which one did you vote for?
Is the screen back?
Yeah.
Yes, the screen is back. And we've got Elendil and Muriel.
So
this has been the longest drum roll for March Madness.
Unsurprising.
And you can see 76%. So it was a blowout.
It was. He was clearly. I mean, everyone else in this in the final 8 was kind of in the 50% plus, 50 to 60%. Elendil 76%. So there was no doubt from the beginning.
Perfect casting, perfect portrayal, perfect setup. When they say season 1 of Rings of Power was about setting up this Second Age world, they did a great job with Elendil, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, Jim. Out of curiosity, going back around where Adar and Arondir were competing against each other.
Yeah.
How close was that particular race?
It was neck and neck, and it was just like this round where Arondir losing to Adar.
Yeah. Because I sort of expected Adar to go on just because his character was very, very. There was a lot of buzz around his character because it was so good.
Yeah, but then there was an afternoon surge. It happened this afternoon, and it happened on Monday afternoon.
Well, I have a way of going in and saying so and so calls for aid.
Well,
and and I never know if it does any good or not because once I've already voted, I can't see any of the results anymore.
There you go. So at any rate, Arondir had a massive surge both this afternoon and on Monday afternoon to win his matchups pretty easily, and he was number one in the raw vote this time.
So we're gonna vote. So tomorrow will be when this round of the final four goes up.
Yeah, April 1st.
And then it's going to run through when? When is this round?
April 1st and 2nd.
Okay.
Tomorrow and Sunday.
All right. Then on Monday we'll have another.
The final four in the basketball tournament. And two Elves, Galariel and Arondir in the first semifinal. And then the Stranger, Istar, and Elendil in the second.
All right.
You've got your final four, the Fayan Four. Voting starts tomorrow. We'll post a link on all of our socials and, of course, at theonering.net. You can see the full bracket on our Facebook page. It's the cover photo now.
Yep.
And this is shaping up to be a bunch of good guys.
So are we going to do another panel or another one of these little quick talks on Sunday evening? So it goes live on the 3rd, or that's why I was trying to figure out the calendar.
Yeah. So here's the calendar. We're voting in this next round, the next to the last round, round 5, on Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll vote on Monday and Tuesday for the finals.
Does that mean then we would have to have a quick, on like the end of the early evening Sunday to announce?
So we could do that about the same time on Sunday if you want.
What do you think, Justin?
I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll see how the voting goes, and we'll
yeah, because otherwise we'd have to do it like Monday morning.
So we'll let everybody know for the results show. A lot of people are going to see the results on when we post it anyway. So.
Yeah.
You can start voting and you can share the link. Anyone can vote. You don't need to be registered or anything like that. So looking forward to how the voting occurs because you're voting for nothing but good people. So who outweighs good?
Well, we hope the stranger's good. I mean, so far he's decried and he had that little thing and I think it's all Nori who made him better. Or at least allowed him not to slide into bad. But I don't think he was actually ever bad. But I think he thought he might be bad.
Yeah, well, a guy who brings a dead tree back to life, probably a good guy.
Yeah, but also a guy who kills all those fireflies. Because the minute she said, well, the bad guys, the dangers that they kill things and stuff like that. And he's like, I killed the fireflies. And it's just her faith in, I know you're here for good. I know you're here for good.
Well, he also sort of disintegrated the servants of Sauron, so.
Yes, he did do that.
Confident that he's a good guy. If he's a blue wizard, though, one never knows what happened to the blue wizards because there are speculations that they got corrupted. So, and Saruman certainly got corrupted. But if he is indeed Gandalf, he's got a lot of story left.
Of course, again, he could be Saruman.
That's
and it's one of those things as to whether or not they would use a current name for him or if they would have to use an earlier version of names.
Well, we know that Saruman and Gandalf have lots of names to choose from. So.
Yeah. I hope they just pick one and I understand you don't want to necessarily have the Harfoots give him a name, but maybe they encounter an elf and an elf gives them a name. Or either that, or once he finally, once he's under those stars, I wonder if it'll just be like a lightning bolt and suddenly everything will come back to him.
Now, the interesting thing too about this matchup is in Galadriel, Elendil, and presuming that this stranger is Gandalf or some other named wizard, then we have 3 of our 4 are existing in the Tolkien Legendarium, just as far as names go. And Arondir would be the one guy who's
The made-up character.
new to the Rings of Power verse. That and if you're going to have that Southern storyline, there was no Southern storyline. This is, my issue with so many who are saying, well, why don't they just follow the book? Is there is no book for the second age. And
There's a little sentences here and there, and general list of, when all the Numenorians were, all the royal family was dying and the new king came about. All that.
Right.
But obviously that's just a date.
And so you need a story arc. I actually talked with Charlie Vickers about this at one event that got sponsored. And one of his questions, it was a sly question because he was asking, "But is it okay to have made up or non-canonical characters for the Rings of Power?" He knew he was Sauron at the time. But he wasn't letting anybody know. And my response to that question was absolutely. If you're going to have a story, then the story has to be populated with characters. And if you're going to have a story that takes place in Second Age Khazad-dûm or in the South pre-Mordor, then you've got to have people that are going to carry a storyline. Even in Numenor, you've got to have a storyline and not just a bunch of names and a few events. So
because the only people named in Numenor is the royal line.
Correct. And that was all the speculation in the casting about. The only thing we could speculate about was, well, could this be a Numenorian king or queen? And we have lots of other types of characters.
Well, we have to have a king men. We have to have kings of men. We have to have a witch king at some point.
Any rate, there's our final 4. I'm going to stop sharing and get back on screen with you guys.
Okay.
All right.
Yay.
There it is. Well, this has been an exciting contest so far. The final 4 is here. We're almost to the championship. 2 more rounds of voting. Again, you can start voting tomorrow. We'll have the link on our website, and then we will give you the results, and then fans will decide who is the number 1 Rings of Power characters after season 1.
Yeah, we've had a lot of these. This will be the latest in a string of March Madness champions in Middle Earth.
Yeah. Well, and what's fun about it is the fact that you're right. We've got some new characters and some canonical characters, but what's nice about it is, now we're down at the point finally where the different brackets are finally going against each other.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. Do we? Yeah. So who thinks we're gonna? Do we want to postulate who we want as our final 2?
Who do you think is coming out?
I think Elendil is looking strong.
Yeah, can Elendil take out that Arondir fandom?
Well, no, Elendil right now is competing against the stranger.
No. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's
Yes,
Galadriel versus Arondir. So can Galadriel take that on?
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Elendil overcome the stranger. I think Elendil will overcome the stranger.
I think Elendil will overcome. I think it's up in the air a little bit about Galadriel and Arondir. If nothing else, we know they're both kick butt fighters. And one has a lot of focus, and who she has to be, who she's chasing, and the other one has proven to be empathetic to the beings around him, to trees, to the villagers. And so I think he's the everyman elf.
Got you.
And a romantic, of course, because he's already planning a home. and more trees to be planted.
Indeed. Mordor
Which
may
means
have
he's
a-
probably not around for too much longer. He's probably doomed himself already, but whatever. So that's, I'm kind of thinking Elendil. I would like Arondir, and yes, I'm going to push for him every time I post about it.
Fair enough. We shall see.
We shall see. All right, folks. Look for the link on our social tomorrow morning with the final voting, and tell all your friends. And then we'll see you in a couple days as we get closer to finding out who the most favorite character is from Rings of Power. Thanks, Jim, for putting this together. Thanks, Kathy, for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
All righty.